Welcome to the Microsoft Tips Showcase, where we provide quick, single-topic videos on how to do something within a Microsoft 365 related tools such as SharePoint, Dynamics, Office, etc. These tips are brought to you by SV MacPack, a certified veteran-owned and HubZone consulting firm supporting primarily the U.S. federal government. In support of our customers' need to maximize the value of the tools they currently invest in, we started creating video tips. We hope these videos help you as well. Today's tip is going to be on how and why to use site columns. We'll begin our tip over on the SharePoint site here. First thing we want to let you know is site columns are no different than list columns. And so if you've been part of our earlier videos, you would have seen us create a list column. But let's go ahead and do that. And I'll walk you through that process again to show you at the list and then at the site level. So if you come over here to the quick launch, we'll have our demo list called Metadata Demo. I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to open up the list settings by going over to the top right hand side to the gear icon. I'll click on it, come down to list settings, click on that, and now I'm in the list settings and I can add a new column. I'm not going to actually add a column at the moment because you can see the columns in here. I've added various columns, but right here we've got a column called fiscal year. That might seem like a column that's pretty handy across multiple lists. You might want to use it more than once. In this case, the column is actually sitting here within the list. Let me go ahead and back up to a different list for a second. So we'll go to Documents, for example. If we go to Documents, I'm going to go to the list settings for Documents by going to the gear icon, dragging down the menu to Library Settings. Now this looks familiar, and when you come over here to Columns, we don't see fiscal year. Like I mentioned, it'd be nice to be able to use it in multiple spots, but we don't see it here. So the difference between a site column and a list column is that a list column is localized to the list you created it in. So if you have a calendar and you create a column in there, it's only used in that calendar. It's not used across the board. But what if you did want to create a column that could be used in multiple spots? Let's create one that's called fiscal year, and we'll use it a little differently. So the way we create a site column is by going to Site Settings. I'm going to come up here to the gear icon, drag down the menu until I see Site Settings. I'll click on that. Now when you see the settings come up, let me scroll in here a little bit. When you see the settings come up, you'll see Web Designer Galleries, and right underneath that is Site Columns. So in this particular one, we're going to click on it. And in here is where we can create site columns. And the whole point of these is that they're reusable across all the lists within your site. In order to create a new column, we're going to come up here and we're going to create it. So I'm clicking on the icon. You see the basic information here to create a column. If you've created columns in a list, this all looks familiar to you. Let's call this one just FY, just so we can see it differently from that fiscal year one. And we want it to be a choice column. I clicked on choice. And now we'll scroll down. So the next thing it's asking you is what group do you want to put it in? And this is just a way to organize your site columns. So let's just go ahead and create a group that you can see pretty easily. A test group is what I'm calling it. And theoretically, it'll be at the top of our group. I'm not going to put the rest of the information in here because I'm not trying to show you how to create a column in general. It's more creating a site column. But I did want to put some choices in. So let's go ahead and put in 2017, 2018 and 2019 is fine, right? And then we'll get rid of the default here. And now I'm coming down to the bottom right. I'm going to press OK. First thing you'll notice when we're returned to the site columns list, and it's taken just a couple seconds to create that column, but the first thing you'll notice is that there's a new group at the top called a test group. Right there, you see it. And you see that there's a column that we created, an FY column. It's choice, and it's under site columns. Now that column's created, but it's not actually anywhere that you can use it. In order to use it, we want to come back to our metadata demo as an example on the quick launch. I'm going to click on this and open up the list settings by going back to the gear icon on the top right, dragging down to list settings. Just takes a second for it to load. And now when we come in here, you'll see the columns again, you don't see FY here. You see the fiscal year. That's the one we saw earlier. But you don't see FY. So how do we add it? We come down here, and it says Add from Existing Site Columns. We're going to go ahead and click that. So right here, you can change this to the group that you want. So I'm going to click the drop down, and let me zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier to see. I'm going to click the drop down, and we'll see a test group is now there. There's our field, FY. I select it. I'm going to press the Add button, and now you'll see that it's in our list of columns to add to this list. I'm going to press the OK at the bottom right here, and when I do, we'll see it show up right here at the bottom of our list. And so let me just reorder this really quick. That's a different training that I'm about to do, but let me reorder this so I can put FY a little higher, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this guy, I'm going to put him right at the very top. And what that did is it put this field at the very top of the form that we're going to go to. So let me hit OK. I'm going to go to the breadcrumb. To the right of the logo is the breadcrumb, and metadata demos, their list name. I'll click on that. It'll open our list. Now when I press the new and open up, you'll see that I have the FY year here, and I can choose my year, but I also have fiscal year. So those are kind of what are expected, right? Let's cancel this, and let's go add it now to the documents. I'm going to do the same thing. I open the documents library. I'm going to go to the gear icon, come down to library settings, and now I'll come below the columns list here. I'm going to go below the columns list down here to where it says Add from Existing Site Columns. I'm going to change the group to a test. This is our column, right, that we're looking for, FY. Add that to the columns to be added and press the OK button down here. So now we'll go back to the breadcrumbs, to documents. And I already have a file here, so let me just go ahead and show you the properties in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and say, oops, what am I looking for? There we go. So now when the properties come up, you see that it's right here. I could edit this, the properties, and FY is right here. I don't know if you can see that, but FY has now been added, and I can choose 2018. Let's go ahead and hit cancel on that guy. And I'm just going to come back here. We'll go back to our home page for a second. Just to remind you what we did, we knew about columns that you could put into a list, and they're dedicated to the list, like metadata demo has fiscal year. But when you want to create a column that could be used across multiple lists, you create a site column, again by going up into the site settings and going to the gallery for site columns. The reason you want to do that is it provides consistency across all of your lists. You can imagine if you want people to select departments. Well, you don't want them to have to enter that information in every single time they create a new field or a new list. It's best if you can reuse things. This is called a site column, just for a future thinking, just so you're aware of it. Enterprises, your entire organization, also has metadata like this that they can use called managed metadata, and you can put this consistency at the very highest levels so that everybody is using that same fiscal year or department field, and there's a consistent set of choices that they would all have. Anyways, that concludes the lesson. I hope you found this tip useful as you continue to use Microsoft 365 related products in support of your day-to-day job. Please provide me with feedback in the comments, letting me know how I can make these tips more relevant and useful to you, including suggesting tips you think we should create. Finally, if you found this review helpful, please share it with others on one of the social media platforms or just give it a thumbs up. I'm your host, Neil McDonald with SV MacPack. I thank you for joining me today and hope you'll join me again for other tips.